In a village nestled within the lush landscapes of Africa, there lived a man named Kojo, notorious for his intimidating demeanor and ruthless actions. His presence alone instilled fear among the villagers, for he was known to bully, harm, and take from others without remorse. Walking with an air of invincibility, he believed himself untouchable, above the consequences of his actions. On a day like any other, Kojo found amusement in the discomfort of others. He spotted a young man, burdened with goods from the market, walking along the dusty path. With a sneer, he bellowed, "You there? Yes, you! Come here and bend down! You're nothing but a chair for me!" Reluctantly, the young man complied, and Kojo nonchalantly seated himself upon the poor soul's back, mocking him further as he struggled under the weight. In another vile display of his tyrannical rule, he was served a meal that did not meet his peculiar tastes. With a scowl, he grasped the hot plate and flung it towards the servant who had brought it, scolding her face with both the heat of the food and his unwarranted wrath. The servant's cry of pain was met with laughter, not from sympathy, but from a heart devoid of kindness. "Go cook me something worth eating, you worthless thing!" he barked at the trembling girl. Fearfully, she cleaned up the mess, her hands shaking, as she hurried to prepare a new meal. Children, too, were not spared from his cruelty. A little boy, bold enough to speak out against him, was met with a ferocity that knew no bounds. "You dare talk back to me!" Kojo roared as he delivered blow after blow, leaving the child in a heap, each strike a testament to his unchecked aggression. The boy was left bruised and battered. The boy's mother, upon hearing the commotion, came running, her heart filled with fear for her child. As she attempted to intervene, Kojo turned his wrath upon her. "Stay back, or you'll get the same," he bellowed. But her maternal instinct could not be stifled. She reached for her son, only to be met with a vicious slap that sent her flying across the dirt ground. "Everyone who interferes will get some too," he scolded at the crowd that had formed, a clear warning to any who dared oppose him. With the crowd's murmurs as their backdrop, the boy and his mother, defeated and helpless, limped away to their home. The silence of the village was a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. That night, a village healer came to their aid, tenderly caring for their wounds with a mixture of herbs and quiet chants. As she worked, she murmured under her breath, "I hope someone teaches him a lesson one day." Her words, though soft, carried the weight of the village's collective hope for justice and retribution against the tyranny that had befallen them. Days later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a woman and her son, weary from the day's toil, found themselves in the path of this tyrant. The boy, lost in the joy of simple play, collided with Kojo. "You imbecile! Can't you see where you're going?" he thundered, shoving the boy with such force that he tumbled to the ground. The mother, her eyes aflame with a fury matched only by her calm, stepped forward. "We are sorry, sir. It was an accident," she said, her voice steady yet laced with anger. She lifted her son and hurried away, but the spark of vengeance was already lit. Unknown to Kojo, the woman was a witch of great power, veiled in the guise of an ordinary villager. That night, under a moonless sky, she convened with her coven. Around a fire that crackled with ancient magic, they chanted, their voices weaving a spell of dark retribution. "By the harm he's done, so shall he repay. In life as in death, his spirit shall not stray." The following morning, chaos erupted in Kojo's home. His family, finding him lifeless, wailed in despair. "What curse has befallen him?" they cried, unable to fathom the suddenness of his demise. The funeral was swift, the village's fear of his lingering malice hastening their actions. But as the night reclaimed the day, the witches approached his grave. With whispered incantations and the force of their will, they summoned his spirit back, binding him to a half-life. "Awake, tyrant, and behold your fate. To our will you are now slave, your reign of terror ends today," they intoned, as Kojo's eyes fluttered open, filled with confusion and dread. With Kojo in tow, they weaved through the village, a silent procession under the watchful gaze of the moon. As they approached his former dwelling, the place from which he had once ruled with an iron fist, the witches stopped. They turned to him, their eyes glinting with a power he could not comprehend. "Now proclaim your passage. Let all hear the echo of your downfall," commanded the lead witch, her voice carrying a weight that brooked no refusal. Trembling, Kojo complied, his voice a ghostly whisper in the night. "I'm passing by! I'm passing by!" His words, repeated several times, floated through the village, a specter's lament that chilled the bones of those few who heard it, stirring in their beds. With his proclamation made, the witches led him away, his fate sealed by the magic that bound him. As they disappeared into the darkness, the village remained unaware of the strange redemption that had unfolded in their midst. As a slave, Kojo was subjected to the humility and toil he had imposed on others. Yet fate had one more twist. In their need for funds, the witches employed their magic once again, turning Kojo into a cow and selling him to an unsuspecting merchant. Kojo, now trapped in this new form, could only observe the world with a silent despair. In the serene but isolating expanse of the merchant's farm, Kojo, now trapped within the body of a cow, experienced a life far removed from the one he had known as a bully and tyrant. Though he could not speak or express his thoughts, his mind remained painfully human, a silent observer to the world around him. One afternoon, Kojo found himself by the water trough, surrounded by other livestock, yet profoundly alone in his experience. Nearby, the merchant's young son, Tahir, played in the grass, his laughter a bittersweet reminder of the innocence Kojo had so often scorned. Tahir, noticing Kojo standing apart from the others, approached him with a curious gaze. "You're not like the others, are you?" he said, reaching out to pat Kojo's broad back. "You look sad. Do cows get sad?" Kojo, understanding every word but unable to reply, felt a pang of regret. Here was a kindness he had never shown to anyone, offered freely by a child. The merchant, watching from a distance, called out to his son, "Tahir, come away from there. That cow is no pet. He's meant for the market soon." Tahir looked back at Kojo with a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I wish you could talk, big guy. I bet you'd have some stories to tell," he said softly, before reluctantly following his father's instructions. As Tahir left, Kojo was enveloped in the silence of his own thoughts, reflecting on the twisted path that had brought him here. The irony was not lost on him. Once a figure of fear and control, he now longed for the simplest act of communication, a luxury forever beyond his reach. This stark contrast between his past arrogance and his current predicament deepened his understanding of the consequences of his actions, teaching him a lesson in humility and empathy, far more profound than any words could convey. In these quiet moments before his fate was sealed, Kojo grappled with the weight of his transformation, both physical and spiritual. The day of his slaughter arrived. As the butcher approached, Kojo, understanding his end was near, fought desperately. The butcher and his helpers were stunned to see tears streaming from the cow's eyes, a reflection of Kojo's final realization of his misdeeds. Despite his resistance, his fate was sealed. As the blade descended, his life flashed before his eyes, each act of cruelty a chain that had led him here. The butchers, though startled by the sight of a cow weeping, proceeded, unaware of the profound transformation of the soul within. It wasn't until years later that the villagers learned the true story behind the weeping cow. The story of the man who terrorized the village, only to face the consequences of his actions in the most unexpected way, spread far and wide. Kojo's cruel journey came to a poignant end, embodying a profound moral. Treat others with kindness and respect, for the mistreatment we dispense can return to us in unforeseen ways, teaching us the ultimate lesson in empathy and consequence. Please, comment down below and tell me what you liked about this story. Also, please like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel and the ability to provide you with more stories. Lastly, please click on the notification bell so you do not miss a story. See you in the next story.